Hi everybody, welcome back to the Underwater Photography Show. As always, I am Matthew Sullivan.
And I'm Alex Mustard. And we're very excited today on the show because we do have something of a world exclusive. We both have in our hands a new strobe from Retra. They've managed to get one to me and to Matt, who's just on the other side of the screen, but is actually obviously on the other side of the world when we record this. Before we get into strobe, we'd just like to give a shout out to any equipment manufacturers out there. We're always really happy to talk about new products and exciting new developments in underwater photography. So please reach out to us if there's anything you'd like us to cover. If it's new products, you don't have to send them to both of us, but if you can get them to one of us, we're very happy to put them on the show, chat about them. We can do long episodes, short episodes. So we're always very happy to feature these things. It's a great way of getting this information out into the underwater photography community. What we've got today is the brand new flash from Retra, and it's a real departure from the flashes they've made before in terms of its setup, its specification, and indeed size. I'm holding it quite a long way forward here, but I will show you first of all its size comparison with their current strobe. So this is the Maxi, the new strobe coming out at the end of 2024, and this is my Pro Max strobe, which is quite a lot smaller. So it's quite a big change. So why is it so big? I think we'll start with that. Is first of all, it's got a very different flash system and battery system. This is powered by a pair of lithium batteries. As is well known on this channel, I can't ever tell anyone the name of lithium batteries. So I'm actually going to take them out of here and read them. Sorry, Matt, I talked over you.
They are 21700s.
Okay, so I'm opening it up, and yeah, this is what it looks like. I can't see the number on there. I can see lots of numbers on there, but they're that size, and it's not green screening unlike the others. So this is the new strobe. It's a lithium-powered strobe, and it's got those sorts of characteristics. I think Retra said this was very much a response to what a lot of customers were saying. They said, some customers obviously love the philosophy behind the Pro Max strobes, which are all about quality of light. They're a very small strobe, so they work very well. This is the Pro Max again. So they work very well both for macro or wide angle. They're really focused. This is the Pro Max. They're focused around quality of light, use AA batteries, which can be convenient at times, but has some limitations. And I think, a number of photographers, whether they're big animal shooters, black water shooters, they were saying to Retra, what we want is a very, very powerful strobe for shooting stuff that's maybe further away. We want something with really rapid recycling. We want something where we can stick a pair of batteries in and do the day. Although I have to say, I think a Pro Max with a booster on, you've got to do some pretty heavy photography to flatten it in a day. It's got incredible duration these days. And this is the outcome of that. I'll turn it on. I just had the batteries out, so hopefully I put them back in correctly. Here it comes, turning it on. And then I'm going to spin it around. The green is obviously showing its full battery. And then I'm going to turn it on to the M mode, back to the purple light that we've been used to from the older strobes. And I'll put it back on test actually to fire it because I haven't got a camera attached to it. So there it is firing away. It doesn't really show up on the video very much, but you can see it flashing. I'll flash it at me. Oh. Whoa. I think I might have had it turned up a little bit bright there. It's about halfway down the settings on power. It's got a lot of settings. It's got, Retra said, because it goes to a higher power than before, it's got, I think, 17 power settings. So you can turn it down even more than any strobe I've had before. And then the other feature that when I'm flashing it around, I'll talk about is it's obviously got the normal modes you might expect, like TTL and HSS. But if you specify it with video light, it's also got a video light. So I've turned the video light on, and then that's the video. It's a very wide beam, and it's adjustable over many power settings because it uses the same power setting gauge. And then when you want to turn it off, you just turn it down, and off it goes. And then you can come back to the manual mode. So that's it all working. This is a working prototype, and it's working really well. I did also try its power last night. They sent it to me, and I attached it to my camera and fired it off in the house to see how powerful it is. And it is very powerful, but we might come back to that in a sec. Matt, I know you've got an email from Retra to tell us a bit more about some of the specs, because I know it is very much a strobe that is defined a little bit by its specifications and particularly its launch price, because it's a lot cheaper as well than the Pro Max, even though you get more for your money, obviously.
So one of the for lack of a better term, complaints with the Retra line is how everything has gotten significantly more expensive as the performance has increased, which you would expect. But the Maxi launch price, I believe, is 800 USD, which is
it's 799.
which is
what are you
quite
going to spend the
affordable.
$1 on?
Which is really quite affordable, especially for flashes now, because there aren't too many in that price range now. I think you have Krakens, you have, I think, the Soup Ace, however you say that, in that range. And backscatters might be as well. Oh, I thought they had raised the price, but maybe not. But this is clearly a strobe that I think is a complement to the Pro Max. So if you want ultimate light quality, the Pro Max is going to be your strobe. If you want speed and power, the Maxi is probably the strobe you're going to want to go with. Or if you shoot a lot of macro or in murky environments where you don't need that huge amount of light spread and the really soft light, the Maxi might be better because it's a narrower beam. So it's easy to control.
Yeah, sorry. And I think that the price as well pitches it much more into the mainstream than the Pro Max, which Retra themselves say, one of the reasons the Pro Max is expensive is to put all that performance into such a small package. Costs a lot of money. You've got to miniaturize everything. You've got to deal with all the heat dissipation of packing everything into a small package like the Pro Max. If you give yourself a nice big package, a lot of those problems go away, and it makes the manufacture and production a lot easier. So I think that's also why they're able to produce, you're getting, more on paper performance for less money, and a lot less money, which seems strange, but actually I think, there are limitations of having a strobe big like this. And I don't think it comes anywhere. I mean, looking at the beam spreads that Retra have sent to us, this strobe produces what a lot of photographers want, which is that harder, narrow light in the middle of the picture that goes a long way. Great for, bigger animals, great for shooting big schools where you're not getting that close, but not necessarily the most soft, beautiful light for close focus, reef, wide angle type stuff that I like to do.
I would also say, you may have already mentioned this and I missed it, but this isn't really a review because we haven't shot them in the water. This is just to discuss the specs, the ergonomics, things like that. And hopefully at some point we'll both get to shoot them in the water, and then we can do an actual review on them after we've had some time with them. But I'll just read off some of Retra's specs here for these. So like you said, powered by dual 21700 batteries, which means it'll last multiple days most likely, unless you do a ton of full power shooting. You get 550 full power shots, and at low power settings up to 50 frames per second, which could be kind of cool.
I don't think I'm going to be testing that. Like, what underwater needs 50 frames a second?
Well, maybe now somebody will eventually get a frogfish as it strikes, which would be cool.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you've already got one. Yeah, okay. So.
Let's see. It's definitely a cooler light, so it's 5900 Kelvin without the diffuser. Although I imagine, unless you're doing snoots like what Alex has on there, most people will probably use the diffuser on this strobe to get the wider, softer light, and it warms it up a little bit. So with the Retra's wide angle diffuser, you get a beam to about 160 degrees and a 4500 Kelvin color temperature, which is much nicer for most wide angle stuff.
Maybe we should take a break from the reading and just I'll put up on screen those comparison shots that Retra sent us of their own tests of the strobe, not our tests, but they're only comparing them against their own strobe. So I think the first shot is the Maxi prototype, and each of these is exposed correctly to the strobe. So it's not comparing the power of the strobes. These are all on the same power. It's comparing the beam angle. And the first shot is the Maxi, so this new strobe without a diffuser. And you can see it's got quite a focused, hard light beam. But now I'll bring up the shot with the Maxi prototype, so the same strobe, but now with that wide angle diffuser. And you can see that the light has got warmer. it's got wide and is nicely spread. And that's, beginning to look like a really nice light bit pattern for wide angle. And then the final one I'm going to bring out is the Pro Max, which is wider again still. And that's with no diffuser. The Pro Max produces a very soft natural light anyway. And actually a lot of users find that the diffuser really makes very little difference because the light's already so wide. And actually a lot of users just don't bother with the diffusers on them. So yeah, that gives you a feeling for where it sits in the Retra range. So it's not got that wide, warm, natural light of the Pro Max, but there are plenty of people asking for that. Did you cover the guide number when you were reading the specs then?
Oh no, guide number is real quick before I do that, I do want to mention that Retra has kept the face of the strobe the same.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Accessories are cross compatible with any model, which is really nice. You don't have to buy anything new for that.
Yeah, and you saw it. Well, I've got these are both Maxes, but yeah, that's my old snoot that's my own snoot on one of the prototypes there.
So guide number quoted is 46. And I know you feel a type of way about guide numbers, Alex.
Yeah, so first of all, I would suggest you watch our video on choosing strobes. And everybody can tell you that 46 is the highest number that we've seen for an underwater strobe's guide number. So this is clearly a very powerful strobe. But guide number doesn't tell you everything you need to know about a strobe, so I'd encourage you to understand a bit more about guide number. I think the other thing to remember is that it's very difficult to compare different strobe manufacturers' guide number claims, in that I think a lot of them do measure them honestly, but you're supposed to measure a guide number at a meter, and the guide number is basically the f-stop that you would need at ISO 100 a meter away from the subject to expose it correctly. So at ISO 100 you'd need to be on F45 to get the correct, which is ridiculous, 46, which is ridiculously closed down at full power. And that's the highest we've seen. But I have to say that it's quite difficult to compare between manufacturers because a very small change in that distance actually makes a massive change in the lighting. I'd also say that because it's the f-stop scale, as you go up, it seems really big. Like, the backscatter hybrid flash, which is the most powerful flash I've shot, that's got a guide number at their +2 setting of 40. So this seems like 40 to 46. Wow, that's like, 10% plus increase. But actually, if the f-stops are, an f-stop is 32 to 45. So we're all still within the same f-stop. So, we're talking about a third of an f-stop improvement. So, if the numbers are accurate and reliable and are borne out in the test. Now, before doing this non-review, I didn't want to speak about this because I've got a working version of it. I plugged it into my camera and I did a comparison shot with the hybrid flash and the thing. And yes, those numbers are believable, but I would stress the fact that it's not as big a jump as it sounds in the numbers, because that's an f-stop change, and f-stops as it gets smaller and smaller, so the numbers go up very quickly, but it's not actually that big a change in light level. So I would say that this strobe's attraction in terms of power is that it's clearly going to be absolutely at the cutting edge of power output, right, like the hybrid flashes. It gives you that power, which does, in some situations, it's a lot of fun to shoot. It does open some creative possibilities, having so much power underwater. Is it going to feel a different world from the hybrid flash? No, in my opinion, it's going to feel similar. But obviously, there's other attractive features of Retra that you might like. That launch price is obviously very attractive. One thing I like about this strobe is it's very similar size to the hybrid flash. If I can hold them up together, you'll see that I don't know how well I'm holding them up, but they're pretty much the same size. But the hybrid flash is more sculpted in, whereas the Retra is big and round. They weigh almost exactly the same, picking them up. And it's very clear that the hybrid flash, because it's sculpted, gets a bit negative in the water, whereas I think the Retras are going to be possibly even slightly positive, which will make shooting them I think really nice things like black water where you want to be really neutral in the water. I don't mind the weight of the backscatter flashes when I shoot wide angle, I have to say. I don't find them particularly heavy in the water. The rig is negative, but I don't mind. It's not that heavy compared to me. But yeah, the fact that these are a little bit bigger, or a bit more displacement, will make them negative. I'd also say that the difference in the video light output, I think that the backscatter one is claimed at 5,000 lumens, and the Retra is claiming at 6,000 lumens. That's again, although that's a bigger difference probably than between the strobe powers, I don't see either of them being, neither of them are super strong for a video light. But I do like the fact with the Retra, according to their paperwork, you can specify it without the video light and save yourself some money, which I do think is an attractive aspect on the video front.
One thing also that I really have always liked about Retra, I think they do ergonomics better than probably anybody. And they kept the big giant dials from the Pro Max, and they're the exact same ones on the Maxi. So you get that nice solid click, and the power one, which is the one you'll be adjusting more, is longer and easier to find than the one to turn the strobe on, which makes sense because that's the one you're going to be fiddling with more on a dive. So I really like that as well.
Yeah, and I guess it's nice if you're someone like me who may end up owning both of them, that you switch between them and it's going to ergonomically feel very, very seamless.
Yeah, you don't have to relearn where things are and everything.
That muscle memory. Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to read out on that that sheet of specs?
We went over the 17 power levels, which is really nice. So you really be able to control the output. We went over the one thing. So the back panel is plastic, so everyone should be aware of how they are able to keep the cost down. Is that back panel is plastic and not metal. I mean, it's a really durable plastic. I think you'd have to try really hard to damage that. You still can do your firmware and diagnostics and settings through the app, so that hasn't changed either. And then let's see if there's anything else. 300 lumen pilot light, so you can still have your guide light through the snoot if people are snooting, or if you forget a focus light once in a while.
Yeah, there's the pilot light on, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's central pilot light, which obviously when you put one of these on is a big thing.
Yeah, it'll fire right down the middle, because that was always the struggle with strobes like the Inon Z240 and things like that, is that didn't have the central pilot light, so your aiming light wasn't perfect.
I've just discovered it has 2 power settings. Well, trying to turn it off, so it's got
I think that's probably about it with regards to features.
I think it was valuable to run through it though, because I suspect that launch price is not going to hang around forever. I suspect it's, a little bit of a, I know in the past that when Retra have introduced major new products, they've done this pre-order thing. It helps them with their cash flow in the company to get those pre-orders in. And for the customers, you have to wait a few months to get your product. But at the end of it, you've saved a significant amount over the people who will buy it when it's out there. That said, as Matt made the point very clearly in this isn't a review. Neither of us have shot this strobe underwater. I think that Retra have developed a very strong reputation amongst underwater photographers. And I think the strobe is backed up. You can get their 5-year warranty with it, which, should give you a lot of confidence to have, that if, you absolutely hammer it for 5 years, it's under warranty for that time, which for such a high performance thing, I think can give you a lot of confidence. Made in Europe, which certainly appeals to me. It looks like an exciting new product. I think particularly attractive with that price. I have to say, for me though, there's something about their Pro Max that I think is just such a great strobe. I love that you get so much performance in such a small package with it. And that it's, you can use the same strobe for wide angle and macro. Nothing stops you using these bigger strobes for macro, but it bulks up the housing. It stops you getting the strobes in really tight to the port at times. But I have to say, I've got some shark trips next year. I've got some blackwater trips next year. I will be angling to be trying to review this strobe on one of those.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like I said earlier, I think they'll be a good complement to the Pro Max. Or if you just are, like you said, a big animal shooter, murky water shooter, I think the Maxi might be the strobe for you. And I'm also well, I'm not doing any shark trips next year, but plenty of local sharks that I would love to try these out for. So hopefully at some point I'll get to do that, and we can compare after our shark trips and see how they do. But yeah, I'm excited for them. I'm looking forward to shooting them underwater. Looking forward to just blasting about with full power and 50 frames per second. If well, not that my camera can do that, but
yeah, I have to say, I think the obviously the advantage of that power and the lithium batteries is not necessarily that you're going to shoot them at full power all the time. It's more the fact that, you know, with going down to sort of 3/4 to half of the light output, you've got a really fast recycle time, which for certain subjects it makes no difference. For others, it can make a real difference. And I think that will appeal to lots of people. And then at the lower power settings, you know, there is some creative possibilities potentially, not at 50 frames a second, but being able to shoot 5 frames a second might reveal something interesting in a subject, which I think could be pretty cool. I think for me, the takeaway is certainly depending on what the actual retail price ends up at, I think there's a lot more people in the market for a strobe that's, you know, price starts with a 7 or an 8 in terms of dollars than one that's, you know, is well into 4 figures.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there who've, you know, would fancy a Retra but can't justify the cost of the Pro Max. And I think that this could very much appeal to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like a scaled up, better performing. You can think of it as a scaled up, better performing version of the original. Similar to how I'm thinking about it, since it shares a lot of those features, just better and faster and better ergonomics. So, and I always loved the originals. I still had a pair kicking around, however many years later, 7 years later, that never had an issue. So, good on Retra for that. And hopefully we get to shoot these underwater soon.
Yeah, I hope so. And we'll definitely report when we do. Yep. So thanks for watching. I hope that was useful to people who are in the market for something like this.